Breaking news tonight, we're going to cover a huge and a damning development from the deep state. It's leading, right into the office of the special counsel Robert Mueller to the rise of the radical left. We're getting all of this tonight. We begin, though, with our Hannity Watch tonight on the flagrant hypocrisy, double standard Democrats in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Democrat Governor Ralph Northam has now embarrassed himself and the state that he calls home. Now, as you know, he first openly supported infanticide. Well, first the baby will be born, and then, of course, we'll make sure the baby's comfortable, and then after the baby's comfortable, the mother will decide, well, whether to resuscitate. Then we'll all have a little conversation. But he represents yet another chapter in his party's long, disgraceful history, now on the issue of race. And meanwhile, as Lieutenant Governor, Democrat Justin Fairfax, who Democrats want to replace the current governor, he tonight is facing very serious accusations of sexual misconduct. Now, the Democrats are now facing their very own serious Me Too issue. The Commonwealth of Virginia has descended into total chaos and turmoil tonight. Will the Democrats now declare, I believe, all victims? We're going to address that question in a few minutes. Now, to remind you, on Friday, that extremely disturbing 1984 yearbook photo from Eastern Virginia Medical School surfaced showing a man dressed in blackface next to a person that's wearing a Ku Klux Klan uniform. And as you can see, the photo appeared under Ralph Northam's name, along with other photos of the 25-year-old medical student. And shortly thereafter, another yearbook photo surfaced, this one from BMI, which listed a racist and extraordinarily offensive word as Northam's nickname. And then last Friday, Governor Northam, he began the apology tour, tried to apologize for appearing in the racist medical college photo. But over the weekend, then he changed his mind. And he said that he wasn't actually in the photo that appeared under his name in his yearbook. Then he admitted that he did, in fact, wear blackface and in the very same year. But that was at another event. As this gets more and more bizarre by the minute, watch this.
I reflected with my family and classmates from the time and affirmed my conclusion that I am not the person in that photo. That same year, I did participate in a dance contest in San Antonio, in which I darkened my face as part of a Michael Jackson costume. I had the shoes, I had a glove, and I used just a little bit of shoe polish to put under on my cheeks. And the reason I used a very little bit is because I don't know if anybody's ever tried that, but you cannot get shoe polish off.
Okay, black shoe polish, which he knew was hard to get off his face before he dressed up like Michael Jackson. Okay, you think it can't get worse? Believe it or not, it got even more bizarre in what has been described as beyond surreal and such a cavalier moment for Northam. He actually considered performing Michael Jackson's moonwalk dance right there during the press conference. Well, that was until his wife stepped in. Take a look.
You said that the competition in San Antonio was a dance competition?
Yes.
And it was that you danced the moonwalk?
That's right.
Are you still able to moonwalk?
Inappropriate circumstances.
My wife says inappropriate circumstances.
Oh, my wife. Thank goodness his wife was there. Does this really look like a man who's taking that issue seriously? And let's not forget, this is only a few days after Northam actually defended the infanticide issue. And, of course, Northam is now refusing to step down. We sent our own Sarah Carter to the Commonwealth of Virginia earlier today to see what Northam's constituents think about this ongoing scandal. Let's take a look.
When you look at this photograph on Governor Northam's yearbook page, what goes through your mind?
Makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
more than anything.
Not okay.
It just shows that this is the character of a man, point blank. I don't care about the car. I don't care about his nice picture. Just this is who he was.
The only thing I see that he's done wrong is not admitting it's him. It's his page in his yearbook. But other than that, it's 35 years ago. He was a young man. He did stupid stuff like a lot of us do.
Do you feel that him going back and forth, saying first it was him, then it wasn't him?
Me. No, look, it was him. Like, he wouldn't, I don't care if I haven't seen this yearbook, that was him.
I think it bothers me that he's not being honest. I think if he owns up to it, maybe more people would be a little more graceful towards it and understanding for both sides of the parties.
And what do you think should happen next?
He should suck it up and resign.
Whether he should resign, that's up to him entirely. So I'm not going to tell him what to do.
I hope he's a better person now that understands this is not okay. But the fact that he did it at all is just makes me not feel good about him.
How can you do that? How can you spit in the faces of people that trusted you?
So it is disturbing, and
it's very disturbing.
And you'd like to see him resign?
Yes, I would, and I voted for him.
Now, as of today, many Democrats have called on Northam to resign, but he was once endorsed by all of his party's key political players, including, let's see, Senators Mark Warner, Tim Kaine, Clinton hack Terry McAuliffe, the former governor, and even President Obama, who claimed that Northam would put an end to divisive politics. Now, instead, Northam ran on a race-baiting platform. His motto was, "We're welcoming and inclusive. Donald Trump is divisive and dangerous." Okay. Northam is far from the only Democrat, by the way, to run this type of campaign, which brings us to tonight's Hannity history lesson. That is the Democratic Party's racist past, including not that long ago. Many Republicans were proud to be, well, I'm actually conservative, but the party of Lincoln, the Emancipation Proclamation, the 1960s Civil Rights Movement. And Democrats, well, they don't want you to know anything about their past. For example, 112 Democratic lawmakers voted against the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which outlawed racism against minorities, which, by the way, Lyndon Johnson needed the Republican Party. Al Gore's father, prominent Democrat, well, as a senator, he voted against the Civil Rights Act. 1 year later, 70 Democrats voted against the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which prevented racism at the ballot box. And the Democratic Party also largely opposed racial integration in schools. In 1959, 99 Democratic lawmakers signed off what was known as the Southern Manifesto, which was drafted to counter the historic Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court decision. And as governor, Democrat George Wallace, he stood in the doorway of a Birmingham school to physically block racial integration. Former President Bill Clinton, yes, called J. William Fulbright so many times his great mentor. Fulbright vigorously opposed all integration efforts, and Clinton's beloved mentor was a segregationist. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton said that Senator Robert KKK Byrd was her mentor. Byrd was a lifelong Democrat. Before serving in Congress, Byrd was actually in the Ku Klux Klan. In the Senate, Byrd actually filibustered the 64 Civil Rights Act for 14 hours. Later apologized for his racist past, KKK ties, but in 2001, Hillary Clinton's mentor sparked even more controversy over these racist comments. This was during an interview with our friend Tony Snow. Take a look.
There are white. I've seen a lot of white in my time. I'm going to use that word, but we just need to work together to make our country a better country.
And the Hannity history lesson continues. Well, meanwhile, we have another prominent Democrat, crazy Uncle Joe, former Vice President Joe Biden, also facing charges of racism. According to the Washington Times, 1975 opposed a policy called desegregation, busing, which helped integrate public schools. Now, of course, this shouldn't surprise anyone. Kind of crazy Uncle Joe has a long history making really dumb, well, I'll let you decide what kind of remarks. Take a look.
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
What kind of a chance would a northeastern liberal like Joe Biden stand in the South?
Better than anybody else. And you don't know my state. My state was a slave state. My state is a border state. My state is the 8th largest black population in the country.
You got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook.
Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
First, African-American, articulate, bright, and clean. And, of course, my state's a slave state. Then, of course, you can't go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. Imagine Any Trump supporter said this. Now, deflection is the name of the game, of course, and lying and distortion of the Democratic Party and the hard left in this country. I tell you, every 2 and 4 years, the party actively avoids their racist past and claims that Republicans, racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, dirty air, water, kill children, and granny. I guess it shouldn't surprise anyone that the party of Robert Byrd, George Wallace, Al Gore Sr. now is using this race issue as a political ploy yet again. Take a look.
Many Republicans talk in coded racial language about takers and losers. They demonize President Obama and encourage the ugliest impulses of the paranoid fringe.
If you accept the support of Klan sympathizers before you are president, you will accept their support after you're president.
It's wrong what the leader of the Republican Party and this Congress are doing in blocking an accurate census because they don't want to count everyone that they don't think they can count on.
They are in favor of affirmative action if you can dunk the basketball or sink a three-point shot. But they're not in favor of it if you merely have the potential to be a leader in your community and bring people together. Don't tell me we've got a colorblind society.
June 7, 1998, in Texas, my father was killed. He was beaten, chained, and then dragged 3 miles to his death, all because he was black. So when Governor George W. Bush refused to support hate crimes legislation, it was like my father was killed all over again.
When you don't vote, you let another church explode. When you don't vote, you allow another cross to burn.
Now, sadly, in addition to race, Democrats are also actively exploiting the Me Too movement for political gain. We saw a prime example recently during the Kavanaugh confirmation process. Democrats using uncorroborated, unsubstantiated claims of past sexual misconduct going back to high school, remember, including untrue, wild accusations of nearly weekly gang rapes and drugging young girls. Why? To oppose Kavanaugh's confirmation. They said, all women are to be believed. No one gets due process. No one gets the presumption of innocence. Guilty as charged. Remember this.
Not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely comes forward, need to be heard, but they need to be believed. They need to be believed. I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing.
Let me just say right at the outset, I believe Dr. Ford, I believe the survivor here.
I believe her. I stand with her. And
do you hope she shows up on Monday? Do you hope that she testifies?
I don't think she should be bullied into this scenario.
I believe her.
I believe Professor Ford. I think she's credible.
Uh-oh. Democrats now have a very serious Me Too problem themselves. I want to see how many of those very same Democrats will now say, I believe. Why? The Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, who many Democrats want to replace Northam if he resigns, well, he's facing tonight a serious charge of serious sexual misconduct. Earlier today, he finally responded, called the encounter consensual. Now, we're going to be consistent. We're not going to rush to judgment. We never do. Due process, presumption of innocence, even Hannity. Remember those charges? We waited. The very thing he didn't give Judge Kavanaugh. Turns out he was cleared of those allegations. That's not the standard, though, of the Democratic Party. I believe, without any real evidence, any even hearing from somebody. Aren't all claims supposed to now be believed first? Isn't this now a disqualifier for office for the lieutenant governor? Are Democrats now going to call for the lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia to resign? Now, I'm not holding my breath. You're now going to watch a looming double standard, pure hypocrisy play out in real time. By the way, where's Kamala Harris tonight? Where's Gillibrand, Blumenthal, Feinstein? Their silence is deafening. Pure, utter hypocrisy. The same people that bludgeoned Justice Kavanaugh, smeared, slandered, besmirched him, just like many did Clarence Thomas and Robert Bork. Sarah Carter also asked Virginians about this looming scandal and the Democrats' double standard. Let's take a look.
The business with Fairfax, I haven't seen anything to substantiate the initial claim, so I need more evidence.
I
have such like a strong opinion on like sexual assault and stuff like that, and so I think it's really upsetting, but I don't think that he'll get like as much attention about it as like Kavanaugh did.
And why do you think that is?
Because he's a Democrat.
I think you need to, instead of jumping into a story and a piece of information, the information should be given, reviewed. Is it legitimate? Is it not legitimate? And then you go from there.
They believe now? We'll have more later in the program. Now we need to turn our Hannity watch to the hate Trump media. Tonight we can report attorneys for Covington Catholic student Nick Sandmann are prepared now to file suit after he and his classmates were falsely accused of harassing tribal elder Nathan Phillips last month in Washington, D.C. These were smears and that led to death threats, online abuse. Even temporarily, they had to close their Northern Kentucky school. In an exclusive statement tonight, right here to Hannity, this program, famed defamation attorney Lynn Wood, who is now representing Sandmann, says, quote, an agenda-driven mob trampled on Nick's reputation and permanently damaged him. Now Nick has no choice except to fight back against the lies, the threats. His weapon of choice is the truth. Remember, we told you on this program night after night, don't rush to judgment. And we were proven right yet again, as the media, Hollywood, slandered, libeled, tried to destroy this teenager. As the facts came out, we saw a very different story, that Nick stood there calmly, peacefully, and it was Phillips who approached him. And also remember, it was this group of black Hebrew Israelites verbally abusing those Covington students, like calling them future school shooters, and that's among the nice things they said. Now, so far, Sandmann's legal team has sent at least 50 letters to media outlets, politicians, Hollywood celebrities, and even Catholic organizations, warning them all of potential legal action. The list does include the New York Times, actors Jim Carrey, Alyssa Milano, 2020 candidate Elizabeth Warren, the Archdiocese of Louisville, and Baltimore. And remember, Lynn Wood, he was Richard Jewell's attorney. I knew him in Atlanta. Remember Richard Jewell, falsely accused, perpetrating the Olympic bombing? Well, that's where I met Lynn Wood, an amazing attorney, an incredible track record of success in these types of cases. I would expect that justice will be served. We'll have more on that story. All right, we have a major development tonight as to Robert Mueller's pit bull, Andrew Weissman. Catherine Herridge will join us later in the program. We'll talk more about that, the dirty dossier, and going right into the office of the special counsel. In other words, Hillary Clinton, that dirty dossier.